Say hello to Windows.
Sounds like we got sound again. We've been just chilling out talking, people. No, I heard nothing. Even while you were talking, like I heard nothing. It was just dead silence. You're not coming through, actually.
That
The
got
music is
that
coming through, though.
govno.
It's why does it show two different things? That is super weird.
Well,
It should be coming through now.
Audio technical difficulties.
Gotta love it.
It's funny turning up the sound on the stream while I'm watching it because I can hear the music in the background.
Yeah.
And this at the same time, it sounds horrifying.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks, Governor, for pointing that out. I had no idea. I think the update to OBS hit and I forgot.
It just resets stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it always does it whenever it updates OBS, and I just don't think about it.
Bill, your PDX tags are showing through.
My what?
You're behind you in your luggage. Like I could see. I recognize those tags.
Oh, I'm sorry to disturb you, cat. Oh. Did I disturb the master's throne?
Your Royal Highness.
You know, the sole reason I can't move that luggage off of the...
because to catch people up that actually didn't hear anything while we were sitting there yucking it up here on pure silence, it was a discussion of about, like, being polite to people on the street, especially to those you don't know, and having discussions about what the hell was it after that. I guess it was...
We're just shooting the shit.
Yeah, just BSing, I suppose. I think I forgot just because I had to switch gears so hard. So like, oh, problems?
Yeah.
All right.
Just chilling right there.
So what are we gonna do tonight? We don't have Danny Boy. I'm guessing. Like, he hasn't said anything.
Yeah, no, he's not coming in.
At the manor, so it's an easy... wherever our great and merciful overlord wants to take us.
Well, I remember that we had like just started sitting down with Natalia. Like, we had paused right at the point where we were going to start like talking with her and with Danny's father about trying to get the
yeah, because you guys were at some sort of like local location that was similar to a pub, but you know.
That's Sands of Time. That's her goal. That's the goblet.
Yeah, you're looking for the chalice.
The Fey goblet of time.
Yeah. Well, what?
No, I know. I'm just messing it all up for you. Trying to break your brain.
It broke it. Trust me.
It's the goblet of Ridless Shala. We're going to give that to Anubis. Anubis is then going to give us the Sands of Time. The Sands of Time are then going to make everybody forget us being a problem.
Yeah, I accidentally turned this whole campaign into a Zelda fetch quest.
It really feels like one. It's funny.
Let's see here if I can recall.
How to destroy the DM's magical plans. Get the magical sands to make everybody forget.
Yeah.
Is someone gonna like shoot Danny with a sleep dart? Just floods over.
The hell wasn't that in? What the hell was that in? It was with Samuel L. Jackson. He was playing as Nick Fury, and who the hell did he keep? He tranked out the roommate and kept having to deal with interruptions as people were coming through the door.
Wasn't that Spider-Man?
Yeah, that was what it was. Yep.
The second one, I think, when they're in Europe or whatever, like overseas, Far From Home.
Yeah.
It's called. Let's see, what should we call this one?
Yeah. An accidental find. This is nice.
Nice. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what to call this episode.
There you
Oh my god, you took it from me. I
welcome.
literally named this The Art of the Deal.
go. Oh.
Yeah, you know why. You know why.
Oh. Oh, you're wrong on the head.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, man, I don't want that on there at all.
It's whatever. All right, so yeah, we have Natalia. We have Natalia who's waiting to kind of get some more information. Now we have Barnaby and Daniel. Barnaby, I think, will actually take Danny for now somewhere in and around the place to kind of get a look at things and keep him isolated while you guys are actually having your conversation. So he'll take him up to the bar and kind of entertain him with like certain things and, you know, try to keep him distracted for the most part. This will allow Malcolm and Hugh Mann, along with Silva, I think, is with you as well. I can't recall.
Probably. Let me look.
I think she came with. I'm not certain. No, she stayed behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She wanted to work on some things.
Mm-hmm.
To make, let's see. So currently our current group right now is Danny's father, which I've just only called him Danny's father. I know we have his name in one of our notes.
I don't
but-
think. Did he go with you guys? I can't recall.
Yeah, he decided because he's the one that set up the meeting with us.
Yeah,
with
but I don't remember him being there. I remember sending you guys out,
Yep,
but I don't remember him being
was.
at the location. I don't know why. It feels like last week happened 4 months ago.
It does
but-
feel like a really long time, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's only been.
What I wrote in my notes is that Danny's father is able to gather some interest and convince Natalia to meet in the next couple of hours. I seem to remember you saying he came with us, but maybe he didn't.
Maybe he did. Let's just play it that way, but I'm going to keep him sort of relatively quiet in this case. For now, it's actually more of a show when it comes to Malcolm and Hugh to be able to do what they need to do. Because Barnaby and Danny were the other part of that composite, and now that I think about it, I do believe that Danny's father did show up and started having small conversations. He was along with it. Yeah, he did come along.
Well, it would make sense too, because he would not allow Danny to come along, like with just us.
Well, and I also just remembered now that she actually asked him why this kid was with him, and he was basically telling her that this was training of a sort.
And now Barnaby's introducing him to the greatest bar game of all time, Top Golf. Yeah, that was it. And that was it was just the, hey, we're gonna grant you access to what you want, the one thing you want.
Well, and she's basically saying that she's interested because clearly this is a more outrageous proclamation, and there are certain, it's like it fit within that level of just crazy enough because his reputation and credibility stood behind him, producing the fact that he'd probably not be interested in this kind of thing. He's not even in the same field nor shares even the same interests, but there's something going on, so consider her piqued to find out what's happening.
Okay. I was just typing in some notes here. Sorry. Just writing up some stuff from last time, what we were doing, and let's see.
Yeah, the father's name is Howard, by the way, or at least that's the name he goes by now. His original name is not the same.
Sure.
Yeah, Howard Blazington.
I don't think we actually got to like you said. Natalia talked to Howard and asked about the kid. And then we were just about to introduce ourselves, and that's when we cut off, right?
Yeah, so what Barnaby will do is keep Danny at a small distance, able to eavesdrop and maintain, a conversational distance, but he'll basically keep a lid on it, because Danny needs to be trained. Howard will keep the conversation as lead to these negotiations, and then Natalia is obviously there present with her own bodyguards, who seem to be in close proximity.
Oh, yeah, let's get the lay of the land again. So, I remember you said that this was a pretty nice bar.
It wasn't just a
she's
bar.
at
It was some sort of weird open
bar
space
lounge
inside of. Yeah, but it was more like, try to think of a food court from inside of a mall, expanded to maybe about 1.5 to maybe twice its normal size, but given a ritzy quality to it, where you have the crystal chandeliers, you have the low lighting, you have nice tables, good service, all of that thrown into it, including like the really tight weave carpet. All of the accoutrements are in here. And this is the kind of place where people can do these kinds of regular meetings with enough space but enough background noise that it kind of makes it hard if you're trying to eavesdrop too heavily. And it's got those deep reds, dark blacks and browns and all those colors that kind of give it that sense of, that smoker's bar motif, but mixed with a wide open space combined. So it's really a strange kind of architectural mixing.
It's both at the same time open and closed.
Yeah, it basically creates that sensation to it. Yeah, something like this. Just
nice.
way larger than that. But yeah.
And more space.
And didn't we land like on top of a building to get here?
No, you guys actually came in through one of the. There are pads that you came through. You took a jumper to get here. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the name of this place was?
Didn't have one. I don't think I listed any.
Oh.
I don't remember if I gave it a name, really. I
That's
don't
why I'm
recall
asking.
giving one.
Nope. You said we got there and we met Natalia. I feel like you're kind of like getting us right to that point so you can stop at that point. So you're like, yeah, we're here. So I'm asking for the ambiance. The music is helping. And so you said that she was at a table, like a kind of a half circle table, like a booth.
Well, it was a larger table that everybody could sit at. It was already retrofit with everything you guys could possibly need, including drinks and so forth. They had the carafes that had, hot teas, coffees, things like that, and pitchers that actually were settled aside with, you've got the buckets of glass and even a champagne bottle. Like I said, it's settled to where you can sort of snack and or drink at your leisure because it has that same sort of luxury type feel to it.
Okay. And you said that she had bodyguards. How many?
Well, by your guesstimation, because you don't know if you can really identify all of them.
Sorry, just what I
But
can
yeah,
see. That's what I'm.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are two that definitely clearly happen to be that, and they're within close proximity, sitting at neighboring tables, close enough they can react, far enough away that they can see threats as they come in.
Oh, and so she's alone. She's
sitting
all
at the
by
table
herself.
by herself.
Okay. Sorry, when I envisioned it earlier last week, I thought that she like had her goons sitting with her, and she was like in the middle of the chair.
No,
and
just close
stood
by.
up.
Yeah, she's in the center of her goons, but she's not sitting next to them at the same table.
Right. I was just spaced out wrong.
Either way, she's motioned for everybody to sit. Danny is taken by Barnaby so he can, like I said, eavesdrop and maintain it. Then you have her curiosity sort of piqued because Howard has moved in and more or less asserted himself as a businessman. And again, his reputation kind of, settles her down in this. Her interest just becomes further intrigued by the fact that he looks the part by which he is known, especially throughout the link, and his reputation. Just a practical guy who does lots of work within the vehicle industry, and he doesn't appear to even have a remote interest in that of ancient artifacts or antiquities whatsoever. So, there's a small amount of small talk that starts the evening off.
I mean, obviously he would be coming in hot with the, "Hey, Hugh man, at your service."
Well, and yeah, she shook it. She was just kind of like, okay, like it was kind of like,
Malcolm,
sure.
And Malcolm McDonald and Malcolm's just being his normal, overtly courteous self.
Yeah.
Especially so he just basically takes her hand, places his thumb over her hand, and kisses his thumb because he doesn't want to kiss her hand directly because that implies a different message.
Yeah.
So it's like he's doing the kissing hand ritual, but as his proper for like an unwed man with an unwed woman. It's like the whole backstory behind his doing this, and everyone's just looking at him like, "What is this? Just normally how you get a bonny lass?"
Talk about a cripplingly old-fashioned method of greeting, yeah. But you know, it's charming in its own right, especially given the fact that you have an accent.
A lovely accent.
Yeah. Well, so she's like I said, you guys carry on with some small talk. Howard kind of engaging in small, polite ways. So, and you know, Natalia, as I said before, she was dressed in a business-like manner. You know, blouse and blazer, slacks, that whole business. And she definitely has the look of someone who spends her time being very, very, very particular and sharp as a razor as well. She seems to be ambitious just from her own, you know, field of energy and her own aura of things. She's extremely ambitious and has a tendency to really size everyone up, which might be uncomfortable for some, but given the fact that everybody has tested their own metal, withstands this kind of analysis pretty well. When it finally breaks down to real conversation, she's like, okay, so each and every one of you have been brought to this meeting for some reason, and I have to just ask the question, why is it that you have taken interest in me and why the offer is so large? I would only guess that perhaps you know something of my own collection that you're wanting to purchase, something that maybe I would probably guess I would find to be quite valuable. Am I right so far? She kind of waits for anybody to answer.
Aye, you would at that. Think of it as a means to gain you access to more of its ilk.
So your payment is a form of information.
In a manner of speaking, we are acting on behalf of a certain proprietor who's looking for, shall we say, to open up his market interests. And he looks at Howard. Market interest. That's the word, yes?
And he just kind of like, yes, that'd be the word.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang at this.
To speak plainly, Miss Aleska, we are interested in one of your artifacts. We know that you have it in your possession because we have been in touch with those who know these kinds of things, and it is important to certain people that have become closer to me than I would have expected, and I would like to retrieve this from you. But of course, as I already am aware, being a businessman, you're going to need some kind of compensation of equal value, and unfortunately I don't believe that I have enough of my own estate that could equally compensate you monetarily, but I do have access to information that could easily be a steal for someone such as you, since it is what you seek in terms of more antiquities and artifacts of this kind. She kind of cocks an eyebrow. It's like, all right, not a bad sales pitch. What exactly is it that you're looking for? And he just kind of tilts his head to the side a bit. He's like, we're looking for the Chalice of Ridlashaw. And
Howard says that?
Yeah. Well, you guys have been trading information. He's been speaking to Brenner. It's not like he doesn't have that. And so she just kind of like raises eyebrows at this point. She's like, you really do have some kind of investigative team, don't you? That's not even something that I even advertise. It's part of my private collection. And you say you have something that could equal its value or surpass it. Now I'm even more interested. What on earth could possibly be worth more than that? Again, leaving the question open to anybody to answer.
How about an entire market of the Fae? Q put his hand on the table when he said that, just a little gently.
Yeah. She kind of makes that sort of smirking tisk noise, and she's, well, of course, somebody who might say some things like that might think that I'm either insane for believing it, or there could be other difficulties. How am I to know that anything that you offer is worth what you're saying? How can I verify that what you're actually offering is as valuable as you say it is?
And then Malcolm just goes, Donnie, what?
And he's just like snoring on the thing there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brenner,
Well, so Hugh,
Brenner the thing. And then Brenner just not Brenner, Barnaby just takes the bracelet off, hands it to Malcolm. And Malcolm says, these, and then he takes out the blade of the orphan clan that he picked up. And says, these are...
Sheathed or unsheathed?
Sheathed. He's
Okay.
not going to have an unsheathed blade.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's like that might have sent like a slightly different message.
He
Yeah.
takes out the leather. He takes it from its leather sheath, and it is basically sheathed. Says, this would be the blade of the orphan clan, and then this would be what did he say this was? A magical enhancer.
She like takes a look at these two things that you present up to her. She's like, kind of gives him a sort of a once over. Oh wow. My dice like me this evening.
like
She
you? Oh, that's good.
well, yeah, because that was just a crit on her education check because she was just trying to sort out whether or not these things were authentic. And she's like, "That is impressive." Looking at Malcolm in particular, and she's like, "This is actually real." And she pulls it just enough out of the sheath, keeping very careful about it too. You can tell that she's worked with these kinds of artifacts before. She's minimalizing her touch. She's making sure that she's not getting too aggressive with its examination, but is being extremely particular about how the sheath is built or constructed, finding seams and making certain that it's using the correct materials. Ends up examining the blade to some degree without pulling it completely free of scabbard, and then like slides it back across the table. She's like, "That is impressive." And I do have to say that it is unique of its type. Certainly. I do have an
And
eye
we
for that
know-
kind of thing. And she like
We know someone who can do has all a whole store front of all of these types of things.
she's just like holds her finger up and just like, "Let me see this." Now, this object, of course, being Danny's fetish, which I just love saying because it weaves him out. Yeah, because this is his form of focus, he, is kind of squirming on the stool in the background there. But she takes a look at it and she's like, "This doesn't seem to actually conform to a lot of what I understand with certain antiquities that I've encountered before. However, its construction is used doing fairly old methods. I'd bet that some of this is actually pure silver." I'm actually taking a look over at certain aspects of it, but it also seems to be alloyed, which is unusual. I don't really know what to make of it. And when she sets it down, everybody can roll an awareness, actually.
To the sheet.
Look at the
Good
sheet!
burn.
Look at the sheet! Anyway.
Thank you, D. That's your new meme.
It does happen to me sometimes.
17.
Indeed. Hugh, what about you?
You, what about you?
Hugh, what do you do?
$15. Your awareness is only 9?
Yeah.
Mine's 11, but I'm distractible, so it's
Yeah, no, I put a lot of because I wanted to make this character more combat heavy. I did.
All right, so you
So,
guys
well-
immediately notice the fact that she has one of her eyes has to be an implant of some kind or another. You don't hear anything clearly, but you can tell that the level of focus in her left eye is sporadic by comparison. Like you can see the pupil dilates and it basically focuses itself in a much more mechanical kind of way whenever she's examining anything. The other part of it is that you catch that there is a subtle texture difference on her left hand as she's kind of coating everything over. And it makes more sense if you guys have any kind of, you can roll on cyber tech if you have it. as a skill. You might not.
Wow, I actually do.
Yeah. Hey, you get to use a
Actually,
skill you haven't used yet.
Malcolm has been going to community college.
Oh,
my.
okay.
So you know
29.
them- so you know the make and model.
She's using a very specific set of cybernetic enhancements, so she's modded, which that wasn't well known. It's very close to looking like standard human, like it looks all entirely human, but you realize that the texture of the palm of her hand is different. And the reason why that might be the case, it's subtle, but you notice it nonetheless. She's got some kind of like either a hand or arm replacement that has the feature that allows her to detect and analyze certain biocompositions as well as metallurgical compositions just by touch alone. That's why she's able to depict and find out exactly how and why it's silver but alloyed and not really certain as to its composition and why it would be set up the way that it is. The implant in her eye must allow, or like her eye replacement basically, so her ocular implant also must give her other kinds of data and information, very likely doing some kind of cooperative detection and analysis based on her other features from the mods that she's got. But it makes more sense now why she would want to use, tactile contact as a means of actually getting everything going. So, yeah, she's kind of unusual. You wouldn't have thought that she would have any mods, but it's clear that she has them very heavily disguised. Needless to say, but you do, yeah.
Hugh's gonna like, it's like you can see we're not lying, but as a show of good faith, what if we guided you to this marketplace?
You can see Howard kind of like cock his head to the side. It's like, remember what I said about certain things and offering too soon.
But remember, my guy's a hopeless romantic. He's
Yeah.
like, everyone's
He's-
good.
And she's like, well, of course I'd be interested. It's like, we know you would be. But we need to actually guarantee that some kind of business interest can be served before we can offer up anything that we have here now. You've had a chance to see some of the objects in and of themselves and make a determination. What do you think? She leans back and really, really puts some thought into it.
Cat's eyes are huge. Good lord.
he is the cat lord. But she just gives it a moment. I'd have to say that the evidence set before me is actually somewhat compelling. I will give you that. Those two artifacts alone would probably cost me quite a bit if I were to try and acquire them normal means. And if you're just carrying them on your person and he is allowed to wear this, indicating the silver bracelet, which she again slides across the table to return it, that must mean that you have some kind of connections because, well, it just must. I don't know of anybody else who's walking around with ancient artifacts or even subtle artifacts like that one there.
Yes, Malcolm just kind of gently slides his basket hilt a little bit behind his back, as he is a walking artifact.
Yeah. She's like, okay.
He was gonna say, well, you do get around.
She's like, well, then I suppose we will have to make a certain form of trust, will we not? Either by verbal contract or otherwise, since I don't necessarily deal in antiquities of a standard nature, I don't have standard contracts. And because you're seeking something that I have in my possession as private collection, I must see if this is truly worth my time or not. Should I find myself in a position that is shortchanged, I don't have to offer you anything.
It's a good deal. And he puts out his hand.
Howard puts your hand on the table. He's just sort of like, then I suggest that we do a bit more of a parlay before we agree to terms. Gives him a bit of a hard eye out of the corner there.
And then Malcolm's just muttering just loud enough for, Tiberius to hear, which is the, I know, come to my world.
She's like, agreed then. How do you propose we do this? He's like, one moment. He kind of leans in, and he like leans into Hugh and you, Malcolm, at the same time. He's just sort of like, this is kind of my thought at this point. We clearly have her interest. We can make this work. I don't if I recall correctly, you only have a certain number of passes. Are these restricted in any capacity? Meaning that, does it matter who owns them, or is it just who carries them that has clearance?
I'm
It just
You know,
whoever is in possession of the pass can get through. So
Okay.
it's not tied to somebody's name. It's just tied to who carries
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, so that's Hughes remembering.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Bert seemed to indicate that once you have a pass, you just got to show it to get in.
That's excellent. And we only have a limited number of passes, and we don't have to tell her that we have a certain number.
And personally, I'd like Donnie to be out of harm's way for just.
I'd agree, and I would like to actually do the escorting myself. I've never been there. I know that you've been, so I'll take one of you with me, and we'll carry an extra pass for herself.
Well, couldn't we get Barnaby's pass
We could.
or Silva's?
We can probably take them both, because she'll probably want to have her own muscle along the way.
I suppose.
We must at least meet her on equal footing, at least this far. He turns back around, and he just gives her a moment. He's like, we have means to actually show you this, just like he said. Under one condition, however. Once we've demonstrated this, and we do have the capacity to do so, that you must return the pass to us once it has been offered up, and we can afford you another. Or at least offer you the one that we possess, as we can have a means of getting it ourselves. But we don't even have to take you that far, as from what I've already heard, getting entry should be proof enough. She's like, that seems reasonable. Of course, me and the bodyguard will have to come along, since I'm assuming you're going to be taking yourself and one other. He's like, of course. Standard procedure. He just nods his head. We have enough. We should be able to make this manageable.
Man, it'd really suck if the marketplace moved. We got that.
This just makes me want to make a character that lives in the marketplace now.
It's doable. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
It'd be weird to be in a cyberpunk world with the marketplace just there, like that. Like you live there and then you walk outside, and then the cyberpunk world is your new world instead of the vice
Right.
versa.
It'd be fun to do
My
that.
God. His Majesty. Can you
So-
hear him?
No, but I don't have to. I don't have to guess.
It's the pet me or pay mortal.
Okay, so she's like, agreed then. We should be able to manage this within some reasonable time. How fast can we have this prepared and ready to look into?
Let's see. We need just 2 extra passes. That would be Barnaby and we need 3, right? One for Howard.
Well, yeah, Howard will come along plus one other. She will come along plus one other. So it's 4 total. You need 4 passes.
Oh wait. Well, then we'd have to leave behind me or Malcolm.
Well, yeah, because Howard's the one that's leading the negotiation. It doesn't really matter. This is going to be a pretty quick thing, because like he said, he's heard of what you guys have encountered on the other side. He's like, pretty much gain entry, we should be stunned enough that would prove it. He doesn't need anything extra.
I mean, okay, that works.
Plus it conceals the number of actual passes you guys have.
That's fair. So that means on our person we have enough right now.
Yep.
So, like that. Okay, that's all calculation in the head. He looks at his fancy new wristband, or you know
Yep.
what I mean.
Smart brace.
And he's like, "How about that tonight?"
She kind of looks over at Howard. He's like, how about tonight? We don't necessarily need to use up the entire rest of the hour and all of that for negotiation. If I can just prove to you that it's worth your time, I can send you coordinates as to where we need to be, and you can show up there at your leisure. It's in a sort of unfortunate part of town. It's in Low Town with some of the more open-air markets. You'll have to come and expect some of that. She's like, she leans forward with a bit of a grin on her face, sort of shark-like. She's like, nothing like that has ever perturbed me all that much, and besides, I think I'm more interested now than I've ever been. So, how about it? Send me the coordinates and we'll establish a meet time.
And after we're done, we can go to my favorite diner and get some pie.
Of course, Barnaby in the background's like,
And you can practically hear the eye roll from Malcolm.
I saw this. I saw this dog on the internet, like a meme that was like, it was just like laying back, and the person like tapped the dog's leg, didn't move, tapped the leg, and it looked up, and she like tapped the leg again, and the dog visibly went, and then went back down, like eyes up, over, rolled eyes, and then went back down. It was amazing.
Well, so you guys exchange the information necessary, and you hop out of this particular lounge, of course keeping hold of all the passes as you might need them, since she's only going to be borrowing these. And yeah, you're going to be heading out that way. Alright, so at this point, you can literally have whoever is not going to be walking to the entrance, or even, whoever's not going to be walking to the entrance can just remain in the vehicle. And then you'll just have Howard and whomever goes with them do their part. Barnaby and Daniel will probably go back to the penthouse, at least for now. It'll be basically it'll be extended out to an hour from now, since you guys will be able to get a time enough to travel there.
Makes sense. While we're traveling, Hugh turns to them out and is like, "So, who wants to give him the tour?"
Well, given
her
your
the tour, sorry.
penchant for wandering into portals, I think I should.
Oh, I want to say hi to Bert. How many passes do we have on us?
Well, you've got the necessary number, but
Yeah.
I mean, between you guys all, so Barnaby and Danny are home. So those two they're going to go to the penthouse. They're just going to leave. They're going to take a jumper back. It's going to be you and Barnaby's pass and Danny's pass. So that's the 4 passes you need. And then that's pretty much it.
Right. I was hoping that to talk to Bert, shoot the shit with him, but I guess I could outside. I don't after you guys go in.
Right. You could always knock on the door and stuff like that and be like, "Hey, buddy." But
So
again,
that's
that
what I'll do.
depends
I
on
need
whether
to catch up with Bert.
Yeah. In this particular case, it's one of those it's who knows if they're even going to go all the way in. She might just see him and that might be good enough. We'll find out.
Oh, I guess so. I'll wait in the car for now.
Yeah.
All right, you got me. To Malcolm.
It's like he just
Praise
Oh,
be.
oh Jesus, thank you.
Oh, you know what? It would be more fun is if while I was in the car, my spirit guide showed up. It's like, you should go this way. It's just like a Cheshire cat. Not really a guide, more of a...
Oh, guides are always stirring the shit. That's the way it works.
I know. This is funny.
Oh my god, what in that?
Ding dong! Ding dong! I love the arm in the muscle that's flexing too. It's just...
Oh my god.
It's amazing.
The more you look at it, the more disturbing it gets.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Busey.
What's crazy is when he first flexes, it looks like he has hair coming out of his sides, but it's just his back, his actual long hair. But then it disappears when he turns. It's funny.
Oh my god, what's that even from?
I think it's Adventure Time.
Oh my god, that would make sense. Alright. So, yeah, everybody takes that jumper. They head out to the area necessary, and whenever you arrive, there is that alleyway inside the midst of other free markets that have just kind of set up shop. All these little, shanty shops everywhere.
So the plan is not to take her directly to Anubis, just to show that we have access to this marketplace?
Yes, that's basically it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is the idea. Oh, you're muted, dude. I don't know
muted.
why.
Bill.
Better?
Yes.
Weird.
It happens to me all the time. But you were saying?
I was just saying, it's like, hey, you stunned? Great, back to your car.
When you all arrive, it takes maybe a few minutes before she ends up showing up. Now, the jumper that lands in the nearby area is definitely much more wealthy in its like structure. So you've got like the mag drives and all that other stuff that are kind of pushing everything out. There's people complaining as it comes and touches down. When you see her approach, she's wearing some full gear that clearly denotes that she is fully prepared to go one direction or another if things go the wrong way. She's wearing some pseudo, maybe possibly a powered armor suit. It's pretty close to the skin. The plating is not bulky, but it's definitely an enhancement. It's some kind of armor exosuit with a full helmet and everything. It also protects her identity to some degree, except for the fact that everything's all shiny and clearly custom designed. And then her bodyguard wears something similar-ish, though he's got a clear face mask that he can see through that identifies him that way. But she's like,
And then there's Malcolm.
Yep. Just standing there looking like he's pretty much right out of a freaking Renaissance fair. Good to know there, Mel. Thank you for letting us know. But yeah, so when she shows up, she's like, I see that you're actually playing the trust card pretty heavily. That's interesting. And it comes through in a slightly sort of digitalized sound. So, Malcolm, lead the way. You're the one who's going to show her how to get there.
There. Sorry, I had to post this one.
Oh, Jesus
Power
Christ.
armor.
Yep.
Oh, come on. It's the ultimate power armor. The Ultraman
yeah.
universe.
Yeah, it's Ultraman.
I grew up watching that crap.
Did you watch the remake?
Yeah, I liked it. So Malcolm says like, alright, ladies and gents, there is very one simple rule. When you pass the doorway, no violence. There are consequences you're not prepared to deal with. No magic. Again, there's consequences you're not prepared to deal with. Do not accept food from the Fae. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
The tour guide's on tour.
It's he like the blah 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 is actually him giving an entire speech.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go in there, and as much as I would really enjoy the surprise, the doorman is not human.
They kind of
Oh man,
stand
that'd
there.
be really bad if they saw it. It's like pew, 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 pew.
He's not human. He is very friendly. Do not argue with him. It is not a conversation you would win. Now, if you please, let us go. And then he goes down the alleyway. And
As things begin to transition, yeah.
And you got the torches like right by the door, and he just kind of just like knocks on the door.
Yep. And of course the slide window, you just hear shh, like that. You seem to like this place a lot. Like that, he slides it shut, opens the door, and his hulking mass is just kind of peeking in through the doorway at this point.
And he goes, Master Minotaur, Bert, it is a pleasure to see you this evening. And how do you be?
And he's like, I'm fine. So is Phineas. Like that. And so
Phineas.
he's like, yeah. He like turns around and is like, right, Phineas? And you can see like the cat, it's just like sitting tail up and looking at something that doesn't exist, clearly doing that click clack noise. He's like, he's been doing that all day.
Well, that's average behavior for a cat. If you and then he looks at his party and says, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, Howard has gone from like color to like straight up just fucking white. He's just like, even though he was like, he's heard about this, he's looking at Myth directly in the face. Processing has stopped. And then you can't tell exactly what Natalia's expression is, but her bodyguard's is about equivalent, though he's keeping his lips so tight he almost doesn't have any.
And remember, best manners. Now, if you wouldn't mind showing, and then he takes out his pass, shows it to Bert.
Yeah.
It says, like thus.
All right.
Puts it back in his surcoat.
And he's like, he takes note of him. He's like, that's funny. I don't remember giving you 2 passes. He kind of sticks his head out and gives a sniff. He's like, you're new. Like, he turns over to you, Malcolm. He's sort of like, yeah, like that. Just nods his head. It's like, because.
And he goes, it's about future business. We will make sure that they have their own next time. You have my deepest apologies.
He's like, that's fine. I'll take that as vouch enough. Like that, he tucks his head back in. Of course, because of his massive size, he has to kind of tilt his head as he's going back through the archway. Yeah.
And he looks at Natalia and her bodyguard and says, and he looks at them very seriously. Do not make me go back on my word with Bert. And then, like, he says it dead cold, and his eyes don't quite go full black, but there's like, you can almost see like a shadow wants to build in them.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of
They drop
walks
they
on.
drop down a few gradients, basically.
Yeah.
So
And
they just kind of get stuck in place for a minute. Howard is like, he basically puts his hand on your shoulder. He's like, and I let my son walk in here with you. It just kind of like very much under his breath.
and he goes and he just mutters back, I will never allow harm to come to your son if he is in my presence.
No, I believe you. Completely.
Oh, fantastic. Now, and we're moving.
And we're moving, and we're moving.
Yeah.
It's like he's doing the tour guide gesture.
As a point of reference, or as a point of, just kind of giving them a taste, so to speak, you bring them out to the ledge just past the trailway that gets to the point where it starts to wind down into the valley bowl, where you have the spiral of the marketplace in clear view. She's checking various instrumentation and all kinds of other things, and as you stop at that point, you realize that this is probably good enough. You don't really have to go diving deep into the marketplace in and of itself just yet.
Because he gives an explanation. It's just like, and as you can see, you go through various structures of various ages as it goes down to the spiral. Now, the marketplace in itself is a marketplace as such. It is of all realities. Now, I would advise exercising caution when making deals, but I think you're quite used to that.
She just nods her head. She's kind of silent, and so is her bodyguard. Now, Howard is soaking all of this in. There's actually something in Howard's eye, though, that you kind of recognize in Danny's expression, but far more matured. It's that glint of pure excitement. Like some kind of childhood thing just got woke the fuck up. Like he's been asleep, and he's staring at this whole new world as it's really real, and it's like it sent him over the fucking edge. But he's...
And he looks at him just as he looked at Danny that same time, says, and since you're his father, no mischief.
He's
know
like,
that look.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you might, but unlike my son, I've managed to figure out how to make it work for me. And it's not mischief I'm after. I'm just...
Money.
Well, actually, no. It's actually like a childhood reawakening. Like he's just basically going like, magic is real. Holy shit, magic is real. It's that sudden like, holy fuck, there's so much more that I don't know that I need to know. Like, it's absolutely stunning to him.
And Malcolm kind of looks back at that and has a wry smile going, hey, it is quite nice.
So,
Alright.
Yep. Oh my Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Ken. Good Lord. That caught me off guard.
Just saw that, huh?
And
Yes.
and he looks at Natalia and goes, no, miss, does this suffice as good on our word?
She takes a big breath, and you can tell for certain that she's collecting her thoughts, as there is a lot to collect. Yeah, she's just basically trying to keep herself under control here, but she looks like, quite indeed. As a matter of fact, I have now realized that there are so many opportunities and possible options at this time that your initial offer is as steep as you meant it. She looks over at Howard at this point, who controls his expression to some degree. She's like, Howard, I do believe that you are authentic in this offer. We need to find a way that we can actually manage a pass for ourselves, and I need to be introduced to the one that's going to be, well, sharing market interest, as Malcolm put it. And I'm going to want to know exactly who I'm dealing with. Get me the pass, get me that. And I definitely will be more than happy to part ways with the Simple Chalice, because who knows what might be out here. She looks at her bodyguard. Let's return back as a show of good faith. We'll obviously negotiate the opportunity later.
Fantastic. He just kind of claps his hand, that same like mentality of a tour guide.
Yep.
And well, they're going back. just like practically not shoving them, but air shove.
Yeah.
And here we go.
So how long were they out there?
20, 30 minutes tops. Something like that.
So about 5 minutes after they left, he was gonna go to talk to Bert.
All
And
right.
so, like, I feel like the when you guys come out, like, he was just chatting with Bert. Like,
Yeah. Well, and Bert is actually okay with it for now because he recognizes you even though you don't have your pass. But it's one of those things where, you come back and what exactly was you interested in learning or talking to Bert about out of curiosity? Just
completely is like, hey, how's life? How's the missus? Like, just, Mrs. Bert.
Mrs. Bert.
Does he have a missus? Like,
Well, I
just,
mean, you might ask that question. He's like, no, but there's somebody in town. It's that whole like big lumbering dude just kind of does like.
he's just.
and
He's
like,
gonna be.
who is it?
Yeah. No, he's completely enthralled. Like, he's just. I'm actually pushing to make Bert a connection. Like, I want to make him a connection. Like, I want to like connect with him.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of catch it that way, and then when you guys approach, there's Bert, who's more or less actually got to roll on this because I don't know. He's being a creature of myth. He actually has some pretty hardcore. Yeah. He's got the door open, but Hugh is standing on the outside of it.
And I'm being respectful of that,
Yeah, he's standing outside and he's not entering or anything. And then Bert is just kind of like, but you come up and hear Bert just talking. It's like, and so I got this, like, it's a leash. I can walk him around the various trees. He's actually starting to notice the difference.
Oh my god, jeez. I love it.
I think we're gonna have an episode called "The Life of Bert."
Yeah. That should just be a side story. Like, D, you should totally write a side story of, like, just a day in the life of Bert and the strange people he meets and stuff like that.
Like, is he the? I mean, here's my question: is Bert the day shift? Who's the night shift?
It's kind of all the same shift, really. Because
Right.
he doesn't actually experience the difference between night and day in the same sense that anybody else does.
So how does he have time to go into town to have a sweetie? I mean, does he ever get break?
Trade secret, I guess. Yeah.
Is he union? I mean,
You guys always have to
You
show
know
up. You guys always have to show up at night, which is when he's active. But that doesn't mean he's night shift. See, that's the weird thing.
Oh, that's funny. I like Bert. Bert's my favorite character.
so he says, Master Bert.
And he's like, back already then.
Hey, we are done.
He stands up kind of tall and pushes his chest out, and you can still see some of the equipment that he's been offered. He's like, they behaved, right? Like giving a look
Hey.
to Natalia and her bodyguard.
I thought they were good with their word.
And he's like, nods his head. It's like, good. That's the way it should be.
And then as they go out and says, if you wouldn't mind, his hands out.
You mean like to let you through, or?
No, they when they get out.
Oh
Past
yes,
Bert,
right. You're talking about
And-
the passes. Yeah,
yeah,
they offer them up.
he just kind of tucks him in his surcoat.
Yep. She looks at her bodyguard, looks
Actually,
back
no,
at
he
you.
puts him his spur on. What am I
Okay.
thinking?
Yeah. But they kind of give her and her bodyguard give each other a bit of a look. She looks like, we'll be in touch soon. Looks at Howard, as soon as possible. And she goes stepping down and out of the alleyway, and Howard's like,
So no on the pie? Like, he was just standing on the side.
it's like, he puts his hand on your shoulder, he's like, Hugh, that's probably one of the most successful negotiations I've ever actually been a part of. Forget the pie. Although you can probably treat me to some of that pie, if given the fact that we're just going to be able to acquire exactly what we might need and
He was excited.
put some of
Let's
this
go.
to rest. And of course, it's like when you shout that out, Bert's like, "Pie!" Like that comes like through the doorway.
And he goes, and then before Hugh like pipes up, he says, "Hey, would you like us to bring you some pie next time, Bert?"
And he's like, "I love pie."
All right,
Oh,
Hugh,
you haven't had
this-
pie until you had X. I can't remember the name as pie.
Yeah. Well, in this case, he's sort of like, "We'll see. I've had pretty good pie."
All right, you've got your excuse to go get pie now. Let's go.
You can see him like pucker and smack his like bovine lips. He's just kind of just like that, and he's just like, "All right, see you again soon." Like that shuts the door and slides the window shut.
All right, so add pie on top
like
of the
pie.
list. Things to get to Bert.
Pies for passes. Anyway, and
Oh my god, if that ends up being the case. He says, "I don't want that technology. Give me the pie."
yeah, right. It's cost us
Getting
a
a lot of
whole.
good stuff lately.
It's got a whole 44 credits for fucking 2 passes to a magical marketplace. Who knew?
Just have to be friends with the local Minotaur.
Yeah. Well, all right.
We're gonna go
so,
get some pie.
yeah, you're gonna
I
have
think I'm feeling rhubarb.
rhubarb. Is that even in season right now? Anyway, but rhubarb used to grow naturally around where I used to live out in eastern Oregon, as a matter of fact. You couldn't eat the leaves because those are poisonous, but you had to. You could just like chew on the rhubarb, and it would be something that would happen a lot when it was in season and grow out real big. You just break off a stalk and chew on it.
Oh, Strange Nights is very
Whoa! Raiding party! Nice! Hopefully you guys had a good sesh. Thanks for the raid. And also hi to everybody that just showed up too. Really good stuff. Oh yeah.
I was keeping an eye on the chat, as I normally do.
Well, it popped in perfectly, so this worked out
It did,
pretty
I
well.
saw it.
Alrighty then. For those who have just come in, we have completed a bit of an orchestration of a deal here, offering up a antiques mogul a access to incredible like opportunities inside of a mystical magical marketplace that is hidden and clandestine inside of one of the larger parts of Lowtown inside of Night City and the territories therein. And as a result, they were going out to go have some pie to celebrate, and then started having weird concocted ideas about getting things, or getting more passes for those pies. But that was kind of more of a joke than anything. We don't know if that's going to work. All right, so that's part 1. You guys have got a very successful evening in only a few hours. What's next on the list here?
I still would like to speak with Brenner.
Yeah, you got to figure out what's going on with him. And as a matter of fact,
I
you've got
have
lots of night to
some-
burn.
I have some questions.
That seems interesting. Mind if I accompany you? This is while we're eating our pie.
Yep. And Howard,
Hi. So Howard, have you been getting contacts with our elsewhere Master Druid?
I haven't heard anything since he's left. I suspect he's probably gone back to Central Park at this point. My suspicion is that he has other things that have kept him busy, and strangely enough, even though he doesn't seem to be remarkably alike to me in any fashion at all, I recognize when somebody has larger projects they must attend to, and that's exactly the vibe that I saw in him.
Well, yeah, I don't know about you, but let's see if we can. That cabin in the woods, which he seems to have ensconced himself in last time, is where he might be.
I'm going to go back home to the penthouse, and I'm going to look after Danny and Barnaby and make sure that they, have taken well, since this was a success. I'll see you later. He stands
and
up.
then he hands Howard the passes.
Yeah. He takes them and he just nods his head. Obviously, I'll probably see you sometime later then.
Before the morning.
He just nods his head and leaves. Alrighty then. I wish I could remember the name of your little, like, cafe. It's in your notes there somewhere, but...
It is. I'd have to go look back.
Yeah, it's like first session, 20 sessions ago.
It's like Rocket Diner or something like that.
Oh god, I had so many notes the first night. I just scrolled like 3 full scrolls. It's Rodney's Roadhouse.
Yeah, Rodney's Roadhouse. There it is, yep. And it's slightly upper level, yeah. So he ends up taking off, and you and Malcolm head out to Central Park to get more in touch with the possibility of Barnaby. Now
While we're heading out there,
or
Hugh's gonna talk.
Brenner. What?
While we're traveling out there, Hugh has a thought. Lance had an interest in this goblet, and
Yeah.
he's talking to Hugh, or to Hugh. He's talking to Malcolm. Is like, do you know why your employer wanted that?
Well, it's a Fey artifact. He's Fey. Didn't ask questions in my line.
Didn't ask.
But at the same
Didn't tell.
time, Lance can forego this one. There are more pressing concerns because all he's thinking about is Danny,
Yeah.
and because he made a promise. It's like I need to see the boy safe, and Lance's concerns are, frankly, not my own. As grateful as I am for him.
Good deal. He was just wondering because like it seems like we're skirting a line with him in Hugh's mind. But like,
Yeah.
I'd first been hired to look for this object. I found the object, and now we're gonna go get it, but we're not gonna have anything to do with Lance, even though he was wanting it. So.
And the reality is, if Anubis gets a hold of it, then Lance will more than likely do business with Anubis.
True enough. We can let him know once we got it.
Well, having its
Like,
location
100%.
well known and accessible presents both problems and solutions simultaneously. One way or the other. Besides, I think Lance still actually has the piece, doesn't he? Which
Yeah,
also
he
means
still
that
has
he's got a bargaining chip in favor. Yeah, so, I mean, you guys aren't completely stiffing him. What you're doing is giving him the opportunity in some other capacity while also trying to fix a mess. But yeah, you reach out, get a hold of another jumper, and you fly across, going to the eastern coastline or near to it, and landing in the Central Park area. Oh, fucking hell. What is that? The Quake version of Hagrid? What?
It's from the, I think, GameCube version of the Harry Potter.
That's
show.
horrifying.
Or maybe it's the PS1 version.
It makes me
But-
think of Blobalicious, that stupid Quake movie that came out years and years and years ago. So much like that. Okay, so you head out to Central Park. You land in the main parking lot. Some areas have been sort of closed off. Business is either slow or discontinued for a short period of time, given the fact that there's been a lot of activity. By that I mean gang shootings and other issues. When you go stepping out on this main trail, of course, I'm assuming you're going to be whipping out your lantern, etc., and moving
Whipping it
everybody.
out?
Yeah. Shingling.
Yeah, so I mean, he pulls out the lantern and he pours in from his blood pool because he needs to have it active.
Yep, and you go walking through your trail and get yourself over to the cabin that you've kept as a small hideaway for just such occasions that it's necessary.
So he strolls on in and just, knocks on the door just to be polite. And kind of like, calls out, Brenner! You home?
Okay, there is a shuffle from the inside of the cottage, and you can see...
The hag comes out.
No, she's wasted, man, thankfully.
I know.
Thankfully, perma-wasted. No sense of resurrection involved here. When the door opens up, you can see Brenner clearly distraught, but he's keeping it under wraps. The more fascinating part is he's usually pretty heavily robed, that kind of thing. He's been growing a beard for a short period of time, so it's not terribly long. It's a little longer than mine is. But you can see his physique since he has no shirt on. He's wearing loincloth and looks to have been caught in some kind of ritual or something as he's been perspiring quite a bit. And his tall and lanky form is standing there and silhouetted against this doorway and some fire on the inside being lit in the hearth. And
He pulls out the letter. By the way, you have mail.
You've got mail.
This teleported us to a very, very strange realm. It's from your demon friend in the marketplace.
You certain it was Demon?
Well, whoever you were speaking to in the marketplace the last time.
And he just takes the letter at this point.
It had tendencies. The magic was neutralized.
He pops it open. That's what I was afraid of. He folds it closed again. He's like, "Where did you end up being taken?"
And he describes it and says, well, it was a realm which it looked like a bunch of fae were defending a fort upon a cliff. Well,
Yeah,
they
there
were
was some
beset
xenomorphs
by...
coming after us.
They were beset by... I can't even describe them.
That's how he was like. They look like xenomorphs.
Of course, Brenner's not gonna have any idea what that hell that means.
And then Malcolm just looks at him. It's just like, I mean, reptilian and slimy at the same time. It was a horde of them, but we looked out, found a portal.
So you were taken to the Bloody Plains.
You know, that is the second time I've heard that name.
Really? What was the first time?
The guard.
Yep.
The guard, the old city watch.
Oh, okay. The city we went to in the alt Earth.
No, the city watch of the
The marketplace.
marketplace.
Oh, right.
He neutralized the magic, and then told us we were on the Bloody Plains.
After you guys asked where the hell you went the first time.
Yep.
And so he just takes the letter, walks inside, and throws it into the fire, leaving the door open so you guys can come in.
And he walks in and just says, "Ah, so good news."
My imprisonment was under certain conditions, and I knew that if I were to escape, that these conditions would no longer be met and certain things would change. Hard consequences.
You're gonna be okay.
I will be fine.
See, I like you, Brenner, but that was a little open-ended.
He turns around, he's like,
Who won't be fine if he'll be fine?
there are certain fae that obviously had me in prison for a reason. They thought that they were being somewhat civil or courteous, perhaps, locking me into a place where I was in a mental fugue state, trapped in some field for an ungodly amount of time, and who knows how long it was when I was in there. But it's clear to me that they don't understand exactly what mercy really is yet. Regardless, the bargain that I had made was, in retrospect, something that I wasn't ready to make. They always tell you to be careful about the Fae and the deals you make and the bargains you strike, and I figured that I was more than capable enough. But just such loophole, just such wording, wound up putting me imprisoned and someone else I care about at risk. Well, it's definitely maintained a certain peace, but that peace is no longer viable, since my lack of imprisonment voids that condition.
And as he finishes that, he points his finger at Hugh. Hugh, are you listening to the story about making deals?
He's actually had a pad of paper out and he's writing some stuff down.
That maybe we learn about something like this with your own behavior and actions
I've been perfectly,
that have had
perfectly good with the Fae.
consequences. Like, wandering off into portals, or doing such things as maybe not making friends with everybody.
Hugh like flips the book closed. Is like, I've been perfectly good, respectable with the Fae. Like he's just landing on the fact that you were talking about deals and stuff. Is like he's been great with them.
Whenever you are done writing your little thing, unbeknownst to these individuals, your lantern is no longer lit, correct? Or is it still lit?
It's still lit.
Okay.
Because he used that. Because
Well, there's a reason why I'm asking.
The trail to Brenner's cabin was hidden.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just making sure. The reason why I'm asking is something very specific. I have.
It's still
whenever
lit.
you actually come up to it, you actually catch sight of what seems to be some sort of spirit or apparition at the edge corner of visibility, just on the outside of the lantern's radius there. You know, because it produces enough light that it goes out quite a bit, and the ability to see these apparitions is quite extensive, like 25, 30 feet or so, whenever you're standing around it, I believe.
Well, he switches it to hooded, and
Right.
points it straight out.
Well, what's funny is that you do that, and there's kind of a shimmer of the apparition. Now, what's funny is that you actually see the same apparition that you saw from before there, Hugh. You see the man, and he's got the golf cap, he's got the suspenders, the old shirt, he's smoking a cigarette, and he's got that old expression, and he's leaning up against one of the actual dressers that is in this main room here, on to the left of the hearth, where everybody's facing at this point. Even Brenner.
He was gonna do the
Brenner
Spider-Man point.
Yeah. Well, Brenner even takes notice of it this time. He's like looking over and seeing it, and he takes a puff off his cigarette and kind of blows into the air. You see the smoke coalesce and disperse and goes directly into something that's on that dresser, a small little chest that that you, Malcolm, don't recognize because it's not one of yours. But it's just a small chest about this big. And then when he walks forward, you know, you can see him like lean down. He looks at the lantern and just kind of like takes that breath of like another draw on that cigarette. When the smoke is released, he disperses along with that same vapor.
You guys saw that, right?
Aye.
That's the guy who went into the portal. Like,
Surely a jest, you.
do you know me? Like, he scoffs a little bit.
Unfortunately, at this point, I do. And he looks at Bern and says, "Well, that was an apparition that apparently Master Hugh followed into another portal that took us to a rather interesting land. And now, that spirit is pointing out that box."
Yeah, he was already walking over to it. Like, he pointed, he's noticed that right
Brenner
away.
actually takes immediate interest in what you're doing in a way that's almost predatorial the second you start walking towards that box.
Hugh, you need to slow down.
But the box. And
But the
then he
box!
notices. He was distractible, right? So then he notices. He's like, oh.
Brenner,
Like, he...
what's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box? Oh, I've been waiting for that moment in the game to ever come up, and you have delivered, and I am grateful.
So Brenner just looks away from the box and kind of like stares into nothing for a minute. Some personal effects. I was able to retrieve them after a small amount of time. I wasn't certain I was going to be able to do it. In fact, I actually watched some of what Silva was able to do and located a few things that belonged to me, or at least they belonged to her. Kind of like he just scratches the back of his head.
He looks a little confused. Like, wait, do they belong to you or do they belong to Silva?
No, not that, Hugh. The effects belong to my daughter, so they belong to me, but they belong to her.
Wait.
Yeah, so, yeah. I think Hugh and Malcolm are making the two.
He just looks at Hugh, looks back at Brenner. No.
Like I said, I'm going to be fine, but someone else might not be.
How is it possible that Silva I mean, is she distantly related or actually?
He actually starts to laugh and is like, "It's not Silva. I learned what she could do and emulated it. To find the effects of my daughter, that's... I have a feeling that my daughter's actually still alive, or the conflict itself probably wouldn't even be an issue."
Both of us were under the impression, like, we kind of meet each other's eyes and we're like, oh, okay. Like, because we were both thinking that Brenner was like the father
Long
of Silva
distant
for a
granddad.
second.
Look,
Yeah.
it's been a weird.
Greatest of all grandpappies, yeah.
Direct
No.
line.
Well, I mean,
He's like-
Malcolm's got a lineal descendant through his brother's line, owning a pub. So, I mean,
Yeah. Well, at this point, he takes a seat, and he's just kind of like, he looks slack, not relaxed, but like burdened, more or less. If my daughter's still alive, then that means that all of this is just going to boil over at some point, and it's going to become worse.
how much worse?
Fine, story time it is. So, the Fae themselves obviously made their presence known rather often, especially to people of my ilk. We were always steeped in the natural magics, always invested in nature herself. I believe that the terminology now, as her name has become understood, Gaia is everything, and we are all part of her, even if we choose not to be. It doesn't change the fact that even our body's composite of this very earth, the dirt, the trees, the air we breathe, all of it. So, we spent a great deal of time studying such a thing. It's how the Druids came to be. It's what they became akin to, and some of us grew more akin than others. It was looked upon as a means of passage, in a way. Some of us saw it as a bit of a de-evolution. Regardless, at times, when it was thought to be of proper poignance, there would be those who would make bargains with the Fae to acquire more and greater knowledge. One of our high priests, probably the best term for modern day, one of our high priests at the time had himself a bit of an obsession wanting to find and understand nature from that of some of the more animalistic points of view. Instead of finding himself at peace, he found himself elemental, to say the least. The name carrying a certain level of poignance, since you know the elementals that wander throughout Central Park when they're, like, unchecked. So,
Hey, that's not exactly a good thing.
well, it's not good for the rest of us. An elemental on its own is fine, but one that carries a certain degree of sentience can become a real problem. But that wasn't the major situation. He had a deep and abiding control over certain things, and as it was, he upset certain balances. Balances that had to be paid. A balance that he tried to pay with that of the life of my daughter, specifically having her wed to one of these Fae that were so incredibly offended. I objected. Not always were the Fae kind or courteous. Some of them actually experimental and cruel, and we knew this, and the one that we were dealing with was of that particular kind.
Oh, you didn't have dealings with the Winter Court, did you?
It wasn't me that was having dealings. My hands had been tied, given the fact that some of these particular bargains could not be undone. So, something had to be paid.
How did the high priest screw-ups make it so that you and your daughter had to pay?
Well, of course, the High Priest had found himself a way of negotiating around these things. He was decently good at it. Meaning that he had resources, of which all of us and our ilk were considered to be a part of. He didn't look at us like we were actually people. He saw us as a means to an end. The fact that he was High Priest meant that he had certain controls. You realize that this is hundreds of years ago, a different culture. As such, we were beholden to him and his ways, because the magic that was offered up in these ways was tied in such a manner that it made us conscripted to his will. So instead of confronting him directly, I confronted that which was being offered as the suitor to my own daughter. I figured that maybe perhaps that my blood ties with my own child would make it possible for me to counterbargain. I was correct, but my counterbargain was weak. As such, I offered my own life in return, which was not necessarily what it was seeking, but more or less, I gave it something that it couldn't normally possess. A sense of human experience, I suppose. So he would remove that which I possessed to live it himself, yearning for that sense of mortality as a human might yearn for a sense of immortality. Such is the way of things, the balance. So, instead of gaining a wife, he acquired that which I had that was naturally born to me, and I was stuck in my prison, listless and forlorn, for hundreds of years.
Alright, so how does this now involve your daughter?
I suspect that she's probably alive, because no counter-argument would be, correctly supplanted without having at least some kind of a backup. If I were to be freed, which is possible and obviously occurred, he would need to have some way of balancing those scales once again. But I would suspect that over time, despite the fact that things are more static in the world of those who are immortal, means that they move more slowly in certain ways, but that which is mortal has an effect on that which is static. It can't remain so for all eternity. It will shift and change naturally, just more slowly. Some kind of power struggle, I assume, and based on the letter that I have received, it would appear that my offspring is still a bargaining chip in the matter.
He's
Yes.
raising his hand.
Yeah, he's just waiting for you to
He was
respond. Yeah.
And he has his pad out, so he's taking notes.
Yeah.
Because he's ever the investigator.
Yep.
He's like, wait, Brenner, you're human, right? Like he's pointing at him with his little pencil.
Yes.
How did you live for hundreds of years?
Welcome to being part of a Fey bargain. Time for
Oh,
me.
it was an exchange.
I told you I offered what was naturally born to me, and it was able to experience what was naturally born to me in that sense. I retrieved some part of it in exchange. It sustained my life while allowing it to experience some semblance of mortality. It wasn't complete, but I'm certain that it was... Well, I'm certain that it was. And that's all I can say. I don't know exactly what he would reap from such a thing. These are not conventional beings in certain cases. So now we have a power struggle, some kind of power struggle ensuing between certain houses. And it would appear that the bargaining chip is still my own daughter.
I can't remember. Brenner's met Lance, right? He knows of him.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was Lance the whole time?
That was my concern too. Like that's what I was gonna ask. Like, who was this Faye that was like it was Lance?
Well, and it's possible that if it was Lance, that there would be, some kind of glamour ensued so that, Brenner wouldn't recognize him, But that would be an interesting twist. A little M. Night Shyamalan.
Come along a ding dong.
But, he's just... So, her medallion and a few other things that belonged to her, I was able to move to myself. And the fact that you were at the Bloody Plains means that this is... If you were at the Bloody Plains, it was obviously a form of show of strength, not just the fact that the letter written to me was obviously meant as some kind of ultimatum.
It was
He was like
quite
scratching
the
his
ultimatum.
chin. It's like, okay, so I understand how, like, again, he's still in analysis mode. I understand how you could live for hundreds of years with this exchange, because he understands magical exchange. Does that mean that your daughter also gained a boon? He's like looking off, because he
just
in
shrugs
his
his
mind-
shoulders. He's like, I don't know. I had wasn't even certain that she could possibly be alive until I started seeing things like this. I started to realize that the possibility could exist if I had survived this long. I'd only barely begun to entertain the idea, and then this.
I wonder if, and he's just musing out loud. He's not asking
Yeah.
any questions. He's like, I wonder if this is a bloodline thing. And then he points over at the thing. Do you mind? The chest that Brenner was not wanting us to look at it first.
Yeah, he's like, go ahead.
So he flips the pad shut and walks over and slowly opens it up gingerly, like he understands that this is
Yeah.
someone who's not in a good place right now.
Well, inside you find a sort of silvery necklace that has, it's definitely older. Probably.
I'm gonna flip down
antique.
my monocle and start looking at it too.
Well, it carries various kinds of mystical impressions. Itself is not mystical, but there is definitely something of a hint of something attached to it. And the fact that it's constructed by hand, definitely made from silver, it's very pure stuff. But there's also a kind of ivory inscribed into it. It kind of looks like, it's kind of symbolic in a sense. It carries with it the ivory, white, and silver together, sort of a very effeminate type energy to it. Because it looks like the smaller medallion's oval, and it's got that sort of Celtic knot inscribed into it, but it uses the ivory to emulate the look of crossing strands.
You said it was a necklace?
Yeah. And the chain is fairly fine. Something like this would have been extraordinarily expensive in the time that he's talking about.
Yeah. So he hefts it and kind of turns to Brendan and is like, was this hers? Like
was?
gently. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't say it like
Yeah,
that.
no, he's just like, it was.
It's beautiful. Like that's what he said. He's just being genuine right now.
Well,
Is there anything else in the box?
no, just the necklace so far.
How far
Can
have
I-
you come in tracking her down?
Can I make an investigation check?
Brenner actually cocks a smile and is like, leave it to you to understand that I was actually searching to find her overall, not just her artifacts. But yeah, you can make an investigation roll. Go for it.
What I want to do is, based on I obviously didn't share the information I learned with the other, with Malcolm, just because it was just like something I picked up, but holding this, the fact that it's slightly magical, that, I think to myself, maybe Natalia could use some of her cyber tech to kind of identify and help out as well.
Who?
I want to see if
Natalia?
I could make that connection.
Oh my god. You're basically trying to employ, like, people that you barely know.
That's what he does. He just makes connections. Let's see here. So, 1d10 plus 11. Uh, 13.
Well, I mean, the investigation should be used for something more investigative. If you're just going to call her, you can just call her.
I wasn't gonna call her. I was wondering. I'm seeing if I'm trying to be investigative as far as like I'm holding this thing. It's very important to Brenner. Like imagine the cork board with all the wires on it. And the first thing is Brenner, and he's been helpful. Second thing is the story he just told, which was heart wrenching. So that made a heart connection to him, or to Hugh.
Mm-hmm.
Third thing is this necklace that is vaguely with my monocle. It's mystical, but it also is kind of fine, but also has the ivory.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing. The next connection was the fact that we just met someone who has very specific tech on identifying this type of, thing and also knows about this, and then the fourth thing connecting back to Brenner is the fact that this is hundreds of years old, which would make this an artifact, which would make her interested in it, which means she might have information about it. That's the connection I'm trying to make with Hugh, with the investigation. That's what's going on in his brain.
Right. No,
And
all of that makes perfect sense to me. Like the investigation part of it might be, like I said, for that you might want to be. It's like if you're going to be conducting research or something that's a bit more active, not just strictly role play. Because your role play, like I can see your logic and how you're pushing that together without even having to have a role. Like all of that makes perfect sense to me. I don't.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't metagaming.
You're not. That
I was trying to like insert my own like out of world knowledge into Hugh's brain.
No, that's just that has nothing to do with out of character knowledge. I would see that as an easy leap of logic.
Okay. No need for check. So it's kind of funny that Malcolm is attacking it from his own angle. Like he knows that Brenner started looking for him, and I'm looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff is going on in Hugh's brain. You can continue your conversation about what what you started, Malcolm. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's flowing.
It's got the
It's just
vibe.
like, so you have an understanding of where she might be.
She has to be somewhere on some plane close by. Although she might be inside Night City, of all things. But I'd have to find out for certain. And given the fact that her necklace was actually found here on the Prime material, means that there's a chance that she's here too.
Oh, and at that point, he was still holding it, and he kind of, you know how when people gesture with stuff, he
Yeah.
like gestures it kind of at him, and it's like, wait, you found this here, gesturing at our plane.
Yeah, it's just like, yes, I did. I suspect that it was only possible because I do believe that the techniques that Silva employs can only be matched to whatever plane she's working on, so to speak. But I am new to the style that she's employed, and I wouldn't know it as well as she does. But this definitely was here on this Prime material plane, and I was able to find it. So, there's a possibility that she's here as well.
But you see, if both of you are looking at Hugh, you'd see him get speculative. Like you can see the cogs, his hamster wheel spinning.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the discussion we just had about his connections. I'm writing it down. Necklace has mystical.
Yeah, you've done right by me. And you've done right by the boy.
But he's gonna walk
and,
through. Oh, go ahead.
and it does sound like you do need a tracker.
I think you're probably
So-
going to have to watch yourself, Malcolm, or you're going to find yourself the next saint of lost causes.
Oh. He just kind of looks at him, fangs bared. Why do you think I am the way I am? I only
Fair
do
enough.
what God wills. And then he just like kisses the crucifix.
So Hugh's gonna walk through his logic with both of you. It's like, so if Brenner is hundreds of years old, that makes this this necklace has mystical properties. That means this necklace is an artifact. And then it's like, we just met someone who deals in mystical artifacts, who might be able to help us identify where this is from and who had owned it previously. That might be a lead on where your daughter is.
He actually furrows his brow a little bit when you say who owned it last. He's like, I don't think I ever actually would have put together that somebody else would have been in possession of it with a record. You have a fair point, Hugh. I suspect we should probably
Hugh
take
just
our
like
time.
perks up and was like, "Well, it looks like it was a good reason we came out, or a good thing we came out here, right, Malcolm?"
Honestly, I just wanted to get rid of the letter.
It's
And
lost
so
causes.
Hugh's actually going to take stock of the room because he's been focusing on people and the box and the weird saying you'd said when we first got here that he looked like he was doing some kind of ritual,
Yes.
and he was like in a loincloth, and like,
Yeah.
do I take stock of the ritual he was taking place? Like, can I do an awareness check? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Well, I mean, you kind of snap out of your state of like inquiry, and yeah, you start taking a look at the room, and sure enough, there is definitely a lot to indicate here that he was pretty heavily and deeply involved with some kind of ritualistic magic of some kind or another. Because of the chalk lines and some of the other things that have been brought in, including some of the hanging herbs and other bits, there is a smell that is now kind of, it's subtle, but it's there, and it's something that's kind of fragrant and almost herbal.
age.
Maybe, but that was usually pretty potent. There's no incense burning, but clearly something's been tossed into the fire, maybe multiple times, where the smell has sort of been ensconced into the room somewhat. But yeah, I mean, like the fire's burning and you can hear the pitch popping, and he's just he's sitting on that same seat that's sort of facing towards it, and you can see that he's a little bit less fatigued than what he looked like before. But yeah, clearly there's definitely some kind of ritualistic magic in play here, and it's around near the fireplace, which he was using as some kind of medium. You're not sure what though.
Yeah, so that's the next thing. He's gonna gently put the necklace back into the chest and close it, and he's gonna be like kind of pointing around. And it's like, so anything we can help with? He's gesturing at all the room, just in general.
He shakes his head. Nothing I've done has worked. I suspect that she's probably guarded. I was trying to find her more directly. It's been a long time since I've done any kind of fire scrying, and I'm out of practice.
Aye, and who would be the Fae? That's where we'll be dealing with, because that is inevitable.
It is inevitable. What was his name? Like he's struggling to try and remember the name, which doesn't strike you as being terribly unusual, given the fact that those affected by Fey magic have a tendency to have all kinds of amnesia and issues with memory.
Is his name Bob?
I think he went by the name of Lothros.
Lawthrus.
Lothras.
Lothr what?
As.
As.
Yeah, Lothros. So I suppose it's probably just a matter of, well, I guess attacking it from two angles.
I mean, that can't hurt.
I can't agree more.
And regardless of his impetuousness, Hugh is very resourceful.
I've noticed, and it seems that he hasn't ceased being resourceful at all. So, if you have...
And as soon as I get done with this, you can all leave my forest, and I can be in peace.
And he just like looks over at you, he's like, oh, I don't know, I kind of like it here.
Wait.
Needless to say, he ends up cleaning up a lot of his ritualistic mess. He goes on to describe what his daughter looked like, and it looks like she was not terribly tall, but lean. And she had, strong, effeminate figure, but was someone that was considered a beauty of her time. And what he seems to recall is the fact that she had petite features and hair, the kind of it was that kind of hair that's that blonde that's almost like old gold in paintings. Like it comes across as that. And it was, pristinely straight and very long, usually down to her waist. Who knows if she'll actually appear the same way, given the fact that so much time has passed if she's alive. But that is basically what he leaves you with these sort of fanciful descriptions of her appearance back in the day, which is kind of a striking image unto itself. But yeah, we're talking about someone that looks somewhat regal in their own right.
This is his daughter he's describing?
Yeah,
Okay.
and her name was Elga.
ELGA?
Ealga.
So close.
Well, where would we? And he just kind of claps his hands. Where would we like to start?
I thought you were gonna do the Wisconsin. Well, and then stand up.
Well, I mean, he's sensing we are so close to me getting everybody out of the forest. He really wants this to happen.
You're basically the vampire Shrek. Everybody out of my swamp!
Yeah. All right.
That's why he did all of his stuff he did in the movies. All the
Yeah.
people were in his swamp, and he's like, I just want him out. So
Yeah.
he becomes a hero. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's late.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think
and he's like,
he's-
before we go do anything, I need to bathe and make myself presentable. Nobody's going to accept somebody running around in a loincloth looking like some kind of crazed caveman.
I'll wait outside. Yeah. So we'll wait, I guess we'll wait for Brenner, and then we'll head back to Danny's place.
Yeah.
And then once everyone gets some sleep and stuff, and the next time Malcolm's able to move, we'll see if we can get in contact with Natalia, and we're gonna meet up with her anyway to trade and give her information about how to get into the marketplace and actually introduce her to Anubis.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think now that I think about it, we could make it all a big old group event. As far as like, when we meet with Natalia, she can bring the chalice thing. I don't know why it just slipped my
Riglisha.
brain. The Riglisha.
Mm-hmm.
The chalice of Riglisha. She could bring that with her to the marketplace, and we can just go directly to Anubis with it, being a way of introducing, giving the artifact, and moving our quest along. So it ties a lot of those up together.
Yep.
And Malcolm's gonna want to talk to Lance about Lothros.
Yeah. And we'll have the opportunity to do that because he'll get himself cleaned up, and you guys will have about an hour's conversation on the way back because you got to be back to the penthouse before dawn anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep, let me write that down so that the next week we can go through that quickly.
certainly. Okay. Well, I'm gonna swap.
And
over.
of course, we'll bring the chest with us.
C. Yep. Bring it along. Not too bad.
Worked out.
Yeah. Lots of discussion. Made a deal.
Well, progress the story.
Yeah. Get some stuff rolling.
I'm still trying to figure out the Silva connection
The Silva connection? What do you mean?
through the dreams.
Yeah, there is something weird with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's a reason why everybody's being drawn into her dreams for whatever reason. Because
Yeah.
she's got specifics when it comes to that. It's the, you don't show up here unless there's a reason, and clearly there's more than one person in the whole group that has a reason.
Yeah. And also, Ken, we need to make sure that we look into our new threads.
Yep.
Yep.
All your armor and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be some good shit.
Let's see. To reinsurance with her.
The funny thing is, Malcolm has been carrying around this priceless artifact at his hip as a weapon, but hasn't used it as a weapon. Hasn't bothered to find out what it actually is other than his name, and he's just perfectly content.
Cool. Yeah, that's some good stuff for next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this was actually kind of a fun story-based session, so
Yeah.
I
I'm on
enjoyed
session
it.
19.
I'm
Next
sorry,
week
you
I
need
go
to,
to my
write
next-
your short story. A Day in the
Yeah,
Life
Bert.
of Bert.
Bert. Yeah, we need Bert.
We need Bert. Bert. All right. So,
It's
well,
just fun to say. Bert.
yeah. All right then.
Yeah.
Cool beans. Yep. I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for everybody who came by and watched. I'm still trying to work through my sleeping schedule and such to get to a point where I can get myself back on track. It's just been kind of hell trying to figure that out. But it is happening, and I will be back. So I'll see you the next time around, y'all. For certain.
night.